All right, so there is a new found footage film out called The Mitchen Murders, not to be confused with The Bitchin' Murders.
Or the Munchkin Murders.
Munchkin Murders.
Is what I kept thinking it was.
We watched Milk and Cereal yesterday, and that got me real high on found footage again because that was phenomenal. And I was like, ooh, I want to watch another found footage. Is there anything new? And I found this one. So we threw this on. And for the first 5 minutes, it felt pretty good, and it was setting up something that could feel authentic and genuine. And of course, the real feel is always the most important thing with these, as long as I'm totally buying into the authenticity of its realness. Mm-hmm. That's what really matters. And it was presenting itself as a mockumentary, which I like that style as well.
Me too. Yeah.
So yeah, as far as a plot goes, there's this girl who's making a documentary on these murders in town and linking it to the boogeyman, however they're saying it in the movie. The boogeyman is how us normal people say it. We're probably wrong. It has a pronunciation on the screen, and they're all saying it with a weird
they're just saying boogeyman.
It's boogeyman. It's
boogie.
Whatever. Anyway, that's really it. I mean, she's interviewing past survivors and town locals, and okay. So we didn't like this. I'm just gonna say that outright.
We did not
at all.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with, number one, this movie looked awful. So it was trying to look like a 90s thing. And so it was using filters on some of it. Okay, for instance, they walk through the woods and in certain areas. The distortion, it was crazy to me how bad it looked. I was like, is this our connection?
Yeah.
But then other shots would come in of people who they were interviewing, and those would be clearer, just kind of some grain and whatnot that you might see in a VHS 90s recording. So I was like, okay, those look fine-ish. Those are totally fine. If the whole movie looked like that, fine. But there's so many scenes like that where it's they went overboard to try to make it look distorted to give it this classic 90s feel. And I was I don't know if you were around in the 90s. I was. It did not look like that. So I don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah.
So, but besides that, the other big issue is that we just kind of sat there lost the entire time trying to figure out what was the point of anything. I don't really understand what she's trying to do with the documentary and what the ultimate goal is. Is she trying to cobble together the pieces to the puzzle to solve a cold murder case? She's interviewing these people, and the questions they're asking them don't seem to be all that prodding. They don't seem to really give you much information that you couldn't glean from reading their testimonials online. You're not getting any new information. You're not finding any new pieces to the puzzle. And I don't understand what the ultimate end game is to her documentary. She's gonna put this out on the new, on some channel, and it's gonna get people to watch it for what reason? To detail out the accounts of what happened? But they don't really do that all that well. We don't really get in... we get a little bit of that, but it just feels so poorly put together. And maybe that's, part of the added reality and, realism of it, is that she's just not very good at what she does. And it's she's just not making a very good documentary. But I don't... It just is so unengaging. I was so lost and bored the entire film.
Yeah, I think that I was so confused. I was really confused, and I think that there's not any investigation that happens, which is also the other problem I have with it, because aside from the interviews being seemingly amounting to not much, as you said, there's also no investigating of the area. There's I think one scene where we're out in the woods with the documentarian, the main character, and we don't see, like, it's less than a 5-minute scene. Like, nothing happens there.
No.
So I think that it's very clearly seems like it has a very small budget. They are in maybe like 3 places total. I think the majority of it takes place in an apartment, and then there's a scene at a cafe, and then the rest of it is kind of like, what are they called? Shots of like the environment, like the woods. A lot of that same, like, establishing shots, or like, I don't know what there maybe is a term for it with documentaries, but and like shots of like the rain and like water coming out of a gutter and that kind of thing, and then there's voiceover.
B-roll.
Yeah, B-roll stuff. So anyway, I just think that I was very bored and very confused, as you said, and unfortunately I did not like any performance from anybody in this. And I also think that there's like no horror, so I was really not vibing with that part. I don't think anything was very scary. I really didn't like the ending, and I really don't understand the ending. I think that there was an attempt to set up a twist of what was happening with the murders, but I don't think it really has a great payoff, because I don't feel like the setup is earned.
No.
At all.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, unfortunately, not a recommendation.
So, like, okay, if you take a lot, like, we've seen a lot of these, right? We've watched a lot of these, like, documentary filmmakers take on a local legend, local murder. Obviously,
like
the Blair Witch Project is, like, the most obvious one off the top of our heads. But if we were to go to something, I mean, that's super low budget, but that's super well known.
Ultra low
But if you want to look at something like I think this is called The Lost Tapes of Leah Sullivan.
Oh, sure.
Or something that, where she's like documenting, this house and murders that took place there, and she's going there with some guy, and they're looking into the event. So like usually you're piecing the clues together. And as the film progresses, you learn more and more, whether it's the Blackwell Ghost or, any of these that we watch. There's always like they're ramping things up as far as like we're making it from this place where we have very little that we know, right? Like, God, the best movies that do this are like the missing and searching movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Where it's like they start with this mystery.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened to my daughter? What happened to my mother?
Right.
And they start cobbling pieces together, and they're calling people, and they're finding out new little pieces of information, and then that puts a new spin on like, oh shit, like it could be this person, or maybe this is happening.
Well, and the other thing...
And then something comes in 5 minutes later as they investigate that new piece so like you take pieces, then you see how they work, you see how they fit, and then something new comes along and completely like flips that on its head, and you're like, oh shit, that's actually something completely different. Oh my God. And then you go off in this direction, and then you're waiting and you're following the mystery. And that's what this is doing. It's trying to present itself as like a mystery that you're trying to solve, but there's no like pieces to put together to solve the mystery. So I don't understand the purpose of the documentary. I don't understand the purpose of the film. And I was just kind of sitting there like watching really boring interviews that weren't interesting. Like if you take the movie Lake Mungo, there's a lot of like interviews with families, and then we see like these really eerie shots of like photos and how we're zooming in on like things in the background, and then they're like looking for these like lost tapes that they found in like a journal entry or something, that they're like, wait, she was here, and they find like footage that gives them a bigger, broader scope of the whole mystery. Well, none of that stuff is here.
The other thing too is that there's like a difference in the mockumentary where we are literally watching a documentary that has been compiled, like something like Savage Land, where we don't have like the
Grave Encounters.
Or Grave Encounters. Mm-hmm. Well, no. Well,
Grave Encounters is after the fact.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, after the fact. So the person putting that stuff together, we don't necessarily see them. Like we're just watching the story as it had happened. Versus something like this, or like Horror in the High Desert.
This is like an abandoned project that never was finished.
The documentarian, that's a character. So stuff needs to start happening to her
Yeah.
in order to go along with those pieces as well. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like there's enough that really, until kind of the very last act, when things start happening to her, but not enough happens beforehand.
Yeah,
and,
like look at the last broadcast
the last
is like
broadcast,
this.
yeah.
Right, where there's pieces of the puzzle
Like
that
the
are being
detective
given.
is becoming a part of the mystery, a
Correct.
part of the story, a part of like whatever has happened. It's like they're trying to solve it, they end up becoming like another victim or
right.
something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about so many movies like
we
this.
can,
like The
but-
Den, you
Yeah.
know, where we're kind of following this girl who's like doesn't know she's a part of something, and then she starts to unravel the mystery as it's happening around her. Like that's what these films do. Like that is these films in a nutshell. Is it's a mystery that you have to unravel.
Yeah.
Like whether it's Paranormal Activity or it doesn't matter. It's always about like a mystery unfolding and the people putting the pieces together around them, whether they're aware of them to begin with or not. That's how all of these play out. And this kind of was sort of trying to do that, but it just got lost along the way because like the interviews never gave us new pieces to the puzzle that made us flip how we thought of what was happening. Or like added some kind of new level of like uncomfortableness to like, oh shit, does that mean she's being watched?
Right.
Or like, does that mean like this person actually, might be in on it? Or nothing.
No, there's
And then the
not-
end comes and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Anyway.
I don't know. I hate to shit on films like this because these are like low budget efforts
Yeah.
from probably first time filmmakers who are just trying it out. And I commend you for trying.
Yeah.
It's not.
We know
It's not about attacking you. It's
No.
about our
just our experience
enjoyment
watching the
of it.
film, and yeah, it's not easy to make a movie. It definitely isn't. So the criticisms are just there from people like us that watch a lot of found footage, and
So
there's a lot of really successful found footage films out there. So, and for us, this one wasn't one. So
To be fair, though, of the found footage films we watch, and we watch a lot, and especially like low budget stuff like this, more oftentimes than not, they're not good. And it's because people think these are going to be really easy.
yeah,
They seem simple, but like all film, you just have to have the right ingredients. You have to have lightning in a bottle. These are not easy to make.
Yeah.
They're like any other film. You have to have a knack for this style of storytelling.
yeah,
Some people have it, and some people have to learn it over trial and error. And hey, try another one. Or
Yeah.
shit, maybe this one's amazing and we're fucking idiots. Who knows? I don't know. But you guys can make, that call for yourself if you want to check it out. So if you want to check it out, search for it, watch it, let us know if you agree or disagree. And that's that. Anything else?
nope.
All right. Bye.
Bye.